Hello and welcome to our special live stream tonight. While Seamus and Craig are out procuring whiskey in Scotland for the Whisky Club, I'm here. I'm Johnny Edwards, the whiskey specialist for the Whisky Club, and I get to sit down with founder of Pōkeno Whisky, Matt Johns. How you going, Matt?
I'm fine. Good to be here, or good to be here and virtually there.
How's things over in New Zealand going at the moment?
Bloody cold. 2 degrees this morning. Big frost. It's but no, it's good. It's winter. It's toasty in the distillery. So yeah, having fun as always.
Fantastic, mate. And obviously, we've just had a fantastic launch with Pōkeno First Fill casks. How's your whiskey coming along tonight?
It's not quite as full as your glass, so.
Been found out.
If you just top that up again.
Absolutely, I did. Oh, look. Well, before we get into this, I'd love to know a bit more about your history, Matt, and obviously how you got to founding Pōkeno Distillery. But it's been over two and a bit years since we've done our last Pōkeno Whiskey of the Month. So we've got quite a few new people who probably haven't tried Pōkeno before, and love for you to give them a bit of a background on the distillery.
Yeah, awesome. Just stop me if I'm talking too much because I can waltz on forever about this. So I've been in the whiskey industry for close on 30 years now. A lot of it in Scotland at the start, which was cool. And then we moved to New Zealand, moved back to New Zealand in 2013. And when we got here and decided to stay, we kind of went, you know what, if we're going to be here, what do we know how to do? We know how to make whiskey. That's about it. And so we kind of embarked on this journey of saying we wanted to build a distillery in a country that there weren't really any distilleries at the time. So that involved a lot of process, a lot of challenges. Obviously in Scotland, when you build a distillery, it's great. You've got the cooperages, you've got the bonded warehouses, you've got the still makers, you've got the distillers, you've got everything you need. You come to New Zealand, we had nothing. So it was really building it from scratch, which was cool, including the legislation. So there was no legislation around making whiskey as well. So we spent 2 or 3 years working with the authorities to kind of build a legislative model to say, what do you expect out of a distillery? And it was only when we were confident that we got there that in 2017, we kind of really laid the plans for building the distillery. So started building in 2018 and the first spirit was laid down right at the start of 2019. For us, it's a passion project. It really is. It's kind of, for me, it's a culmination of all these years in the industry, building a distillery to make the sort of whiskey we like to drink. And there really is no compromise in any part of the process. We kind of decided the whiskey we wanted to make and then built a distillery to make that whiskey rather than building a distillery and going, what can we make with this? So, you know, we go into as much nerdy detail as we want later on, but it was all about, you know, clear worts, long fermentation, slow distillations, maximum reflux, only the best casks, etc. And then we got slapped around the face with a surprise in New Zealand with a 9% angel share, which kind of shook things up a bit as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We do a lot of creative and innovative stuff. We're very proud of making a whiskey which reflects the culture and climate of New Zealand. We are making New Zealand whiskey, and we are proud of that. And yeah, we're a small team of passionate people. We have a lot of fun. We launched the brand in 2022. I think it was the year we did the first malt of the month with Whisky Club, which was awesome. And yeah, we're out in about 30 countries today, and just having a lot of fun.
An absolute journey over the last, a bit over a decade now for you going into New Zealand and along the way. You mentioned you wanted to create a whiskey that you really enjoyed, and we've got a whiskey like that in front of us. But can you explain to us what that style of whiskey is like, and what did you actually have to do to try and create that whiskey or emulate?
Yeah, so I've always liked my very fruity and sweet whiskies. It's just something which I do. And for that, there's a number of things during the process that we wanted to do. So, you know, we do a long recirculation of our wort to get it as clear as we possibly can, to give it that, you know, the green grassness as much as we can. We do a long fermentation of 90 hours, which is incredibly long for a distiller's yeast. That secondary fermentation, those floral esters coming through. I think the biggest difference with us, though, is the slow distillation. So when I say slow distillation, we've got quite big stills for New Zealand. We've got a 4,000 litre wash still, a 3,800 litre spirit still. We do 2 wash distillations for a spirit distillation. And our spirit distillation, we do it like 2 to 3 litres per minute, which in a 3,800 litre still is crazy slow. So we've had to put in an Ogden pump, which is a special piece of kit, which comes and clears the condensate from my coils to allow me to distill that slowly. But what that basically does is that it probably sights me somewhere between a double and a triple distillation. Because when you do a traditional double distillation, you're going to distill up to about 69% alcohol, as everybody knows. Cut's going to go down to 62 and then run out your faints. We start our collection at 78 and we stop our collection at 74. And so we're so far up there, and it's all that reflux in the still, which gives us that sweet, fruity characters to our whiskey as well. So very, very cool. It's not particularly economical. It takes time, and that's why we oversized our spirit still, because the wash distillation is obviously quicker, and so it allows us to do 2 for 1, and it's so long that it kind of balances the whole distillery, which works well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for this particular whiskey that we've got for this month, there's an array of casks that we've utilized for this, but I'd love to know.
You raided my treasure chest, Johnny.
We can get into that a little bit later on if you like.
That and the game of tennis.
That is very true, which you did thrash me at.
I've never seen anybody run as quickly in my life, though.
But I'd love to know more about your unique cask philosophy and coming into New Zealand, where there's probably not a lot of, I guess, natural oak over there, and what you've gone and done to create the Pōkeno maturation style.
So I think with us, it was very much a case of from the start, I'm a real believer in first fill casks. And I think once we realized that we were sitting on a 9% angel share, we decided to only go first fill casks. We're taking so much out of our casks the first time. We tend to do not a lot of finishing. So we tend to do full maturation of whatever we do. So when you walk into our warehouse, you've got a whole variety of different casks, whether it be the sherry casks, the Amontillado, the Muscatels, the virgin casks, the port casks, etc. But it's all full maturation. And I'm a true believer in going that by fully maturing everything, it gives me the ability to then kind of create my single malts at the end with a lot more kind of reliability on process than it is than finishing in casks. So it's just something we enjoy doing. We're very fortunate to have New Zealand's only cooperage at the distillery as well. That's something that we built at the same time. We managed to convince Mike, our master cooper from Scotland, to emigrate to New Zealand, which is cool. And we've even started making casks out of native New Zealand timber, which is kind of pretty cool as well.
Oh man, I'd love to know some more about a cooperage in New Zealand, but also utilizing native New Zealand timber. How's that been going for you?
It's been a journey. It was, I think we had a really cool journey around the cooperage. It was, I digress for 2 minutes because it's actually quite a funny story. But I think maybe 2018, I said to my wife, look, we want to be able to make casks out of native New Zealand timber. When we wrote the legislation for the New Zealand single malt whiskey, we basically said that it was kind of all the rules that you have in Scotland, but it has to be matured in wooden casks rather than mature in oak casks to leave that ability to innovate and create a little bit. And so I went, in my kind of idiocy, I suppose, at the time, I went, that's cool. I'm going to find some New Zealand native timber. I'm going to send it to Australia because there's cooperages in Australia, have them make some casks for me and send it back. Little did I realize there's something called the Treaty Waitangi, which stops you for a start cutting down native New Zealand trees. So that's a bit of an issue. We need a big cyclone to come through to blow them down. Once that's happened, though, I actually managed to find some wood. Cool. So we've done lots of different tests on different woods, and we've done it by toasting, charring chunks of wood, mixing it with new make, leaving it 6 months, what matches, what doesn't match, the very kind of Kiwi attitude kind of thing. We found one wood which is awesome, Tortura. We go, cool, that's perfect, that's going to work really well. We find our Tortura, we find our heartwood, we're all ready to go, send it to Australia, and I get a call from Ministry of Primary Industries saying, Mr. Johns, did you know it's forbidden to export native timber? Oh shit. Okay. What do I do then? So at that point I went, right, that's it, I've had enough. Rang one of my friends in Scotland who owns a cooperage and went, can you fly your cooper over? He can make a couple of casts for me, I'll fly him back and at least we'll know if it'll work. And cool. So he was all due to come out, I think it was end of March 2020. Awesome. COVID. So he never made it, at which point I lost my rag until I'm building cooperage. My wife goes, you're absolutely stupid. We don't know if we can get a cooper. We don't know if we make casks out of native timber, and you're building cooperage. Right? Yep, I'm building cooperage. So we built the cooperage. We got all the kit. I managed to spend COVID convincing Mike to emigrate. He came over. And when he finally arrived in 2020, he went, right, now you better be able to make this bloody cask, because otherwise I'm in so much shit. It's like, but it was awesome. And so yeah, the torture has been, we only get enough wood to make 10 casks a year. It's really difficult to find the wood. So we release about 1,500 to 2,000 bottles a year worldwide. And it just sells like, I mean, it's the most Kiwi whiskey we can make. New Zealand wood, New Zealand barley, New Zealand water, which is fantastic. The only other wood that we found worked well is kauri. But kauri is almost impossible to find. It's impossible to work. It's far more brittle than Mizunara. We managed to make 160 litre cask 2-3 years ago. We released the whiskey last week, 150 bottles sold out in 24 hours. And that's probably the one and only we're ever going to do, because it's just too difficult to make the casks. So there's a number of native New Zealand timbers we'd like to try out. We just can't get the wood at the moment. It's a process of working with Ministry of Prime Industries, Forestry Department to find those woods to actually be able to source them and make the casks. So it's a journey, but it's a fun journey.
Oh no, 100%, absolutely it is. We've got a few questions coming through, and Anthony McWayne has asked, how does the New Zealand climate, especially at Pōkeno, affect the maturation and final profile of Pōkeno whiskey?
Yeah, enormously. So when we the reason we chose Pōkeno, so Pōkeno is the kind of half an hour south of Auckland, so kind of north of the North Island, and you kind of go to the Bombay Hills, which is the range of volcanic hills which surrounds the valley, and that's where we get our water from. And you kind of go down into the dip, and it's like coming down into Jurassic Park. It's literally always misty, cloudy, etc., and the rest of it. Incredible levels of humidity. And we chose it because of the water source. But once we got there, we were going, okay, the maturation is going to be really interesting. And it was only after a couple of years that we realized that we're hitting 9% angel share a year. And there's, I don't want to slow it down. I could temperature control, but if I was, I'm not making New Zealand whiskey, so I'm not making Pōkeno whiskey. And so for me, I wanted to let it go. Clearly, it helps with the fruit forwardness of a whiskey. I mean, we're maturing 4 times quicker than in Scotland. We're never going to get to 10 or 12 years old. There'll be nothing left in the barrel. And actually, it's really interesting because, in Scotland, age is a great thing. Up until a certain age, until you get to kind of 25, 30, and then the wood can take over. For me, the wood's taking over at 7. So it's really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few years. But I still feel that between 4 and 6, that's where our best drinking age is, because we're really showcasing the fruit forwardness of our whiskies, etc., and the rest of it. And that rapid maturation is really smoothed out already. So yeah, it's interesting. The difference between North and South Island. South Island, New Zealand, 3% angel share. So crazy.
Massive difference. That's a huge amount of savings, I guess. But also the whiskey's probably maturing at a longer time frame as well down there.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's cool. Real regionality around New Zealand, which is awesome.
Now, speaking of maturation, and I might bring this one back to the glass now, Matt, and the whiskey that you've got in front of you, I've got in front of me as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how this whiskey came about?
Yeah, this one was really, it was, I think when we kind of looked at, and this was something which has been created with you guys very closely, you spent a couple of days over with me and Johnny as well doing it, which was awesome. It was, I think what we wanted to do was bring out a whiskey which was a great winter drinking whiskey. That was the aim of it, kind of thing. So from the start, we were into those kind of, the warmth, the dark casks, the depth of the whiskey. And it was really about how were we able to create that. So we really tapped into some of our oldest casks at the time. So most of these, 5-6 years old. And it really was going, okay, how can we bring the richness, but the depth and the fruitiness all at the same time? So we played around for ages with this one, but I've got the percentages here if you want them, Johnny. But it really was. I mean, if we look at it, we've got about 24% of full maturation Pedro Jimenez in there, which is obviously bringing all that back end, which is cool. We've got 22% of full maturation Moscatel, which we'd not really used before, and used every single one of the Moscatel casks I had. Thank you, Johnny. I've got none left.
Not apologising for that one.
But that was really, really cool. The sherry was interesting with the PX as well. We did a mixture of hoggies and butts, and that was cool. Then we put in kind of 24% full maturation virgin casks as well. And that was really interesting because, again, playing around with the virgin, there's some Kelvin in there, there's some Sylvan, there's some French oak, there's some American oak from AP John, our friends at the Australian cooperage as well at the same time, made some virgin casks for me. And then we topped it up with about 30% full maturation first of all bourbon to really bring in that fruit at the end and stuff. So I mean, it's incredibly complex whiskey. It's an incredibly rich whiskey, and it was a lot of fun making it, which is very cool.
Absolutely, and definitely nailed the winter warming brief. I think this is the perfect fireside, sitting down enjoying it, under the stars in the cold with a rug wrapped around you, isn't it?
I've seen some of the photos. It looks like it's there. It's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely seen quite a few photos from members getting sent through in front of a fire. So well done to all those members who have sent them in. Oh, absolutely delicious.
For me, it's just, I mean, I get this incredible hit of chocolate shortbread. Every time I drink it, I just get chocolate shortbread. And it's awesome.
It's just the fruits for me. As
Yeah.
it pulls down the palate, it's got amazing unification of how it sits through. And you've got the bourbon cask ties everything together, but the PX is sweetness. The muscatel's got that nutty nut characteristic coming through as well. And then the virgin oak's got that extra caramelization. It sits sort of mid to back palate. It holds it all together at the finish.
All those layers, you can almost see all the layers, but they all band together, which is really cool. Yeah, no, very cool.
No, very, very, very happy with how it all came out, and very different to how the first release we did with you as well.
I mean, the first one we went pure fruit, and this one we have, it's the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely one of the darker whiskies we've done, and of course everything in natural color as well. So I mean, it's awesome.
That is very true. Got some more questions rolling through, and we've got Joe. Crown Bausisnos. What is the biggest challenge you faced when starting a distillery in New Zealand, and what's been the most rewarding part of the journey so far?
So for me, the most challenging part was the legislation. It really was. I remember that we turned up at the offices of the legislative bodies. I think the first time we were building a distillery, and said, we're building a whiskey distillery, and they went, "Oh, cool, that's great." And it was kind of, so what do you expect us to do? And it was like, "You'll be fine." I was like, no, it's not the answer we're looking for. We're looking for what do you want us to do? And coming out of Scotland, we're used to the COMA regulations and everything that we need to do to respect it, and that just didn't simply exist in New Zealand. So we spent 2 years working with them to build a framework for what the legislation for distilleries should look like. Because we weren't going to make this massive investment if we weren't sure that we were doing things that wouldn't be questioned in 2 or 3 years' time. So that was definitely the most challenging thing. What's been the most rewarding is just seeing people enjoying the whiskey. I mean, honestly, for me, this was a true passion project. I took a lot of convincing to release the whiskey at 4 years of age. Everybody else was telling me it was great and it was ready, but kind of when you've kind of built it and poured your heart and soul into it, when you release your first whiskey, it's almost like putting your head on the chopping block and going, what happens if they don't like it? Am I going to cry? Shut myself in the corner and cry? But yeah, I think for me, the biggest pleasure we have is that. And we organize lots of events down at the distillery. We're doing a fine dining dinner tomorrow night, and it's just seeing people come together, enjoying the whiskey. And yeah, that for me, that's the best part. It really is.
Beautiful. And Gareth McAllister has chimed in and he's asked, how would you differentiate between this and Pōkeno's winter malt? Currently have a dram of each on the go.
Awesome. The winter malt is cool as well. I mean, the winter malt, though, is what we've done with the winter malt is that obviously you've got everything that's been used for the Whisky Club edition is laureate barley, and it's our standard distiller's malt. And what we've done is we've used the different cask types to obviously influence those heavy flavors, those big rich flavors, to bring it to it. The winter malt, what we've done with the winter malt is we've actually influenced the barley. So what we've done is we've used chocolate roasted malt, toffee roasted malt, and Manuka smoked malt. And it's just been aged in bourbon casks. So all of the winter malt has come from the barley, and it's really heavy on those big chocolate cocoa notes with the sweet smoke at the back end. In the Whisky Club edition, you're very much on the, like you were saying, you're on those heavy, rich sherry notes. You're on those virgin notes, the caramelization versus the chocolate and the sweet smoke. So yeah, great winter products, both of them. But yeah, very, very different as well.
Fantastic. And we've got it's a great question. It's coming from Andrew Wells, and he's asked, would you consider distilling at Pōkeno, but maturing casks at the South Island where there's the 3% in Angel Share? Amrut distills in the southern India and matures their whiskey in the north.
I would, yeah, I would. I mean, it's something we've thought about. It's something that we've been throwing around with one of the Southern Island distilleries to kind of go, well, why don't you send a few casks up to me, and why don't I send a few casks down there? And we can see how our different whiskies mature in different climates. It's just something I've never managed to get them over the board yet with. So I will carry on working on it. But it's a very it's a very good point. It's a very cool point, and it's definitely something we should look at. Yeah,
absolutely. And you talked about obviously Pōkeno's quintessentially New Zealand. Where does that start from? How does what type of water affects you originally from Pōkeno, and where do you get your barley from as well, Matt?
Yeah, so all of the barley comes from the South Island. It's just simply too wet and humid in the North Island to grow barley. So it comes from Canterbury. It's malted for us in Marton, which is the south of the North Island, and then shipped up to us. The water, and that's the key reason we chose Pōkeno, is that we basically, because we were living in Auckland at the time, we'd driven we'd done a kind of ring around Auckland within an hour and a half's driving. Go, cool, we need to find somewhere within this hour and a half. And the key thing for us, the water source. And one day we're driving into Pōkeno, and at the time there's like 500 people living there, and there's a tiny industrial estate behind. There's a dairy and one of the plants, and we drove past it, and we saw New Zealand pure spring water. We went, okay, I wonder where they're getting their water from. And it turns out that there's this water source under the ground, which collects the groundwater from the volcanic hills. Takes 100 years to drip through. Really rich in iron, really rich in manganese. Fantastic for those fruity whiskies I want to make. And that sold me. That sold me on Pōkeno. That was it. That was the water source.
That was it. The water, and that was like the be all end all. You had to find the water source when you were.
It had to be the water. That was the key thing for me. It was the water at the start. It was we knew what we wanted to do. We knew how we wanted to do it. But it was the water. So yeah, it took us 6 months to find it. So, but that was a lot of driving.
Just looking for signs, literally.
Looking for signs, looking for water. The old Wandy.
Oh, look, well, it's all come to fruition in the end, mate. Done a fantastic job.
And I think the whiskies come out great, and that's with you guys as well. You've done this guys a real collaborative one, this one, which makes it even more fun.
No, 100%. And obviously we really enjoy working with you as well. And it's great to be able to showcase, we call it, New World Whisky, but New Zealand whiskey as well. It's fantastic to be able to have that and be able to showcase the members. We've got another question come through and from Anthony's asked, you've got a fantastic bottle design, stunning, refined and elegant, very, very high praise there. A nice touch with the copper disc. Who came up with the design?
Another funny story. So we were looking for something different. We clearly wanted something which was different, and it's quite difficult to kind of get a whiskey bottle which is different because there's so many different whiskey bottles out there, kind of thing. And I just remember we were working with the designer, and the designer just wasn't getting it. And at one point I threw my toys out the plan. I just got bits of paper out and started drawing what I wanted, and kind of playing around with shapes and cutting out shapes and stuff like that. And I just turned around to him and said, that's what I want. And he was kind of going, well, you do realize this is going to be incredibly difficult to label, because obviously, there's not a lot of labeling areas on this kind of cool curved bottle, etc., and the rest of it. And I went, that doesn't matter. And I definitely wanted the metal kind of coin in there as well. For me, that was important as well. And it's really funny because actually a couple of people have said it actually looks a bit like the shape of New Zealand, which wasn't intentional at all. But hey, that's a bonus. I'll take it.
Oh, brilliant. I should also add here, everyone who's on the chat, guys. So we've still got a couple of bottles left of the Pōkeno, but they are going extremely quickly at the moment. So they are up on the site. So if you wanted to grab an extra winter warmer to last you for the next couple of months before winter finishes up, now's probably your last chance to be able to snavel a bottle. So that's it. And we've also can announce every live stream we give away a bottle for someone who's really put the effort in and asked a fantastic question. And so Joe Krambausinos, mate, you've got next month's whiskey on us. So fantastic. Thank you for jumping in. And Matt, fantastic dram, mate. Really enjoyable.
No, it's been great. And we're loving it as well. That everybody who's tasted it in New Zealand thinks it's absolutely awesome. So yeah, it's very, very cool. Well, it's definitely one of the best ones we brought out so far.
No, 100%. It's absolute banger. Very, very, very impressed. Now, I don't think we've got any more questions coming through. So more than happy to wrap this up. Thank you for everyone who's jumped on board. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight, Matt. Really appreciate it.
The whole of the club for enjoying the whiskey, and yeah, great chatting to you guys.
And no, thank you for making this whiskey for us as well. Love it.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you very much, guys. Catch you then.